Welcome to Movie World. I am Andy Signore, and I love Cobra Kai on Netflix. I've said numerous times that it's the best Karate Kid sequel out there. The truth is I hadn't watched Karate Kid 2 or 3 in a long time, so I made sure to catch up with them both before I watched the latest season of Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai Season 3, it's pretty important you watch both Karate Kid sequels before you get into Season 3. In fact, I would advise you watch it before you get into Season 2. The first Karate Kid is most important to watch before you get into Cobra Kai, but the sequels absolutely start playing heavier and heavier starting in Season 2, especially in Season 3. So just friendly warning if you're debating, should I watch one or the other first? But I wanted to go revisit Karate Kid 2 and Karate Kid 3 just to sort of see, are they actually as bad as I remember them being? Because I remember them not being as good as the first one. So let's start with Karate Kid 2. Karate Kid 1, I think, is still a great film. It holds up. All three of the films directed by John Avildsen. Look, Karate Kid 1 is great. John also did Rocky. So you have sort of two fantastically different but great sports films in the first Karate Kid and Rocky. So Karate Kid 2, is it as good as the first one? No, but it's better than I remembered it being. What I forgot about Karate Kid 2 was just how much of a story they give Mr. Miyagi. Karate Kid 2 is like the reverse. You get to go to Japan. They get to go to his old village and like learn more about Mr. Miyagi, where he came from, what he believes in. It gives the viewer a lot more insight into Mr. Miyagi's character. Yes, it's very strange that Daniel's there and uses his college savings to suddenly just get a ticket. The mom's barely there. She's never in any of these sequels, which is funny. We'll get on that in part 3 especially. But I mean, clearly, right. What's interesting about part 2 that I forgot, because I always thought that was the end of part 1. Part 2 starts with the end of the All Valley tournament from Karate Kid 1, but you get to see sort of the aftermath. And it features Kreese there taking sort of Johnny down and breaking the trophy, moments that they show in Cobra Kai. And so I always had thought that was part of 1, but no, part 2 starts immediately after part 1 and really does sort of continue the film, I think, in the right direction. But then immediately, Mr. Miyagi gets attention to go to Japan to go visit. What we learn is his girlfriend. I'm going to sort of talk about plot points here, so if you don't want to watch, maybe zip ahead till you see the Karate Kid 3 poster, because I'm not going to spoil it yet, but I am going to start talking about the plot points. If you want to just watch that, go ahead. Or you can just fast forward to the video. I'll try and put a chapter if I can figure out how those work. But plot points of the film, Mr. Miyagi has his girlfriend, who we learn he sort of moved on from. Well, didn't move on from, but because he confessed his love for her, she was dating his best friend, Sato. And so Yuki, the girlfriend here in the movie, Mr. Miyagi's old flame, and Sato were together, and Mr. Miyagi went against tradition and confessed his love, and that caused Sato to want to challenge Mr. Miyagi to, I forget what it was, but to a duel, to the death, out of honor. And so Mr. Miyagi, not wanting to confront him, especially being his friend and knowing what he did, decides to leave his town and goes away in shame. And it really does give a lot of insight into Mr. Miyagi's character that I really did appreciate. I thought it was fantastic. Sorry, what's the wrong clip here? So when we show up in Japan, we meet Yuki, but we also meet, I still don't know how Daniel didn't end up with her, but we get to Kumiko, who is the love interest for Daniel while he's there. We also meet Sato, and we meet Chozen, his sort of nephew underling who follows what Sato does. But this is the best friend, Sato, who refuses when Mr. Miyagi shows up for the death of his father, his dying father. Sato gives him time to respect and honor his father, but says, "We will finally have our duel." Even all these years later, he's still not giving up his issue. But to me, the real standout is how do I keep saying her name wrong? Kumiko. Kumiko is fantastic in this film. She's so adorable, such a nice, fun character for Daniel. And I don't know how Daniel let her go, if we're being honest. She's wonderful, and spoiler sort of alert, she does show up later in Cobra Kai in a beautiful way. They figure out a way to get her in. Was so totally worth watching. But Chozen, the real standout villain of the film, so much different than Johnny Lawrence from the first film. Was Johnny even the villain? But Chozen is the real bad guy here, who sort of has no moral compass and stands and wants to defeat Daniel, because every chance Daniel gets, he sort of one-ups Chozen here and disrespects him, and it creates a huge rift between him and the girl at the end, threatening her life and doing what is definitely a silly finale where even Mr. Miyagi goes, "This is not a tournament, this is real life." Suddenly now Daniel, who has just won the Whole Valley tournament, let's not forget, is now thrusted into this arena where Chozen is threatening to murder his girlfriend in front of spectators around a little moat that they could have easily escaped from. It's a silly finale, but at the end of the day, I still think the film works. They give this moment where Chozen is just completely given this opportunity to show his honor, and he fails. And I really liked that. I believed the downfall. He is a villain, a true villain, and it's a fantastic sort of different way to go. Is it as good as the first one? No, but it was much better than I remembered it. And Karate Kid 2 is worth watching if you're a fan of the franchise, especially if you're enjoying Cobra Kai, especially if you're watching season 1. I think Karate Kid 2 is a good one to go back and sort of be like, all right, because they do a lot of flashbacks on the show. You could watch these movies in flashbacks to learn more about, who is this Mr. I want to learn more about the Mr. Miyagi that Daniel LaRusso keeps talking about. Watching Karate Kid Part 2 again is worth it. And again, Chozen and Kumiko are fantastically fun characters that do come back in a fun way in Cobra Kai. I won't tell you when or how, but there you go. Now, Karate Kid 3. If you fast forwarded, now we're talking about Karate Kid 3. Karate Kid 3, not good. Karate Kid 3 is ridiculous. Now, there's one section of the film I do enjoy, which I'll get to, but I looked up some facts about this film. Everyone was miserable with this film. This film was rushed together. The other thing that was fascinating about this film is at this point, it literally takes place right after Part 2, but he's no longer a kid in this film. It went from, and I'm trying to verify the time, but yeah, it was another 3 years. At this point, I think Ralph Macchio was like 27 or something when they were filming this, and it was so ridiculous. Yeah, he's 27 when he's filming this, and the girlfriend in the film. Do I have her picture here? Sorry, here. Wait, I did grab a picture of her. She's Robin Lively. She's 16 in the film. So you have Ralph Macchio, who's 27, and this girl is 16. And apparently, it was Ralph Macchio asked that they have the relationship changed to just be platonic because he didn't want his wife to be jealous, and also just because the age difference was insanely uncomfortable for everybody. So they did, because they realized this is weird. But, he's supposed to be like a 16-year-old kid, and he's 27 in the movie. And so there's this weird love story throughout the film that makes no sense, even though it's not a love story. Just this girl is always around and helping Daniel however she needs. She's so underdeveloped. It's terribly written. There's no love. There's just no reason for her to be there. Poor Robin Lively. I don't even know if Cobra Kai could fix her situation. It's just bizarre. But the film, the only part of the film I sort of do enjoy is it starts with Kreese just completely down in failure. He's lost the All Valley tournament, so he's down on his luck, and he's figuring it's over. Cobra Kai has been pretty much shut down. No one wants to be there, and so he doesn't know what to do. And so he calls in a favor from one of his old colleagues, students, etc. This guy Terry Silver, played by it was Thomas Ian Griffith, right? I want to make sure who did some cool action films later. But Thomas Ian Griffith as Terry, who has not yet shown up on Cobra Kai, but who knows? At this point, maybe he would in a new upcoming season. I suspect he might. I don't want to spoil it all, but because I'm not spoiling that show here for you. But the film starts about this Terry is this like crazy rich ex-student friend of Kreese's, who basically is so rich and powerful, he's like, I'm taking off for the week, and I'm going to exact revenge on your people. It makes no sense, but it's sort of interesting. And so this like billionaire contractor military guy suddenly just drops everything to go terrorize Daniel and Mr. Miyagi. It's so stupid and nonsensical. But the part I did strangely like is that he does this elaborate con that's just so weird. And it's also weird because they could have just had Kreese in it more, but it almost felt like they paid him to like show up. Martin Kove, who plays Kreese, pays like they showed him just to do a cameo, and they didn't really want him there. And so he sort of shows up for the beginning and the end of the movie, and then he's like on an island resort midway through the movie to check in, but like they couldn't afford him for the whole movie. It's really weird. But the movie really focuses on Terry concocting this elaborate plan, and then finding the best champ in the town, which is Mike Barnes, who is going to get paid if he beats LaRusso, and then they're going to exact their revenge. But what's fascinating is, I'm sorry, I thought this was Terry becomes like a friend to Daniel and gets him to join Cobra Kai because Mr. Miyagi won't let him. And so this part I did like, but what I didn't like about the film is the fact that Mr. Miyagi does sort of allow him to get away. And then on top of that, the film really does focus on Mr. Miyagi and Daniel starting up a bonsai tree shop. Like, it makes no sense. A majority of this film is like them working on bonsai trees. It's like so boring and so stupid. And Daniel, who's like literally, I don't know, it's been like a week since the first All Valley, or maybe some time has finally passed, but they do come back from Japan, and it's sort of like, it's a little bit of time has passed. It's maybe a year later. And somehow, again, he spent his savings, his college savings, on a bonsai tree shop for Mr. Miyagi, which makes no sense. And then Mr. Miyagi's like, well, you'll be on the deed. It'll be your shop. It's so stupid. And again, just the whole movie just feels like no one knew what they were doing. And according to the stuff I've read, no one knew what they were doing. This movie was a complete mess. No one wanted to do it. They all just took the paycheck, and it wasn't a good sequel. And then there's the girlfriend, and there's this elaborate scene where Daniel just turns into this jerk throughout the movie and goes to like cut down Mr. Miyagi's expensive prized bonsai tree on a hilltop that they rappel down to cut, and it's so absurd and stupid. It doesn't work at all. It doesn't work at all. And then to make it all worse, you get this sort of interesting part about the bad guy, sort of tricking him and getting him to join Cobra Kai, which they do mention in the show Cobra Kai. This part was fascinating, but it never really ends up anywhere as good. And then it just proceeds to the All Valley, his second attempt at the All Valley, and they have some loophole where Daniel doesn't have to qualify because he won last time. He gets to show up for the final match, of course. And Mike Barnes would have destroyed him in reality, but somehow at the very end gets swooped up because Daniel, who's afraid, Mr. Miyagi tells him, focus! And somehow he does. And somehow he just beats Mike Barnes, and it makes no sense. The finale isn't as good. The movie's not as good. It's a complete mess of a movie. Karate Kid 3, it is bad. It's laughably bad. It's boring at times. It is totally a mess. But I got to say, Karate Kid 2, well worth checking out. Now, look, you got to sadly see Karate Kid 3 if you want to really be in the know of what's going on in Cobra Kai. They wisely have made you watch all of the films, and I would not be surprised if Hilary Swank and the next Karate Kid play in season 4, 5, 6, who knows? Because they really are figuring out how do they untap every stone to make Cobra Kai work and every little reference. I will say I love Cobra Kai even up through season 3, which is where I taped this. I just finished season 3. I'm doing a review on season 3 over in the other channel. You can check that out. I'll link to it at the end of this video. But what I love about Cobra Kai is that they using all these elements and even the worst parts of 3 and parts of 2, and they really elevate it. They elevate it to a place where I still have to say Cobra Kai is the best sequel. Cobra Kai is just an amazing sequel because it really does bring it all back together. Now, Cobra Kai could lose steam. Cobra Kai is at a point right now where I feel like it's peaking, and while I liked season 3, I'm just worried, where does it go? Where does it go from here? I hope there is an end game in sight for them and they don't just get sort of cocky knowing that Netflix is liking them. And they don't just write themselves into a place that becomes too silly, that becomes, Karate Kid Part 3. Right now, it's working. I think they maybe got 1, maybe 2 more seasons left if they're lucky, 4 or 5 seasons max. At that point, I think they do have to tap out and let it just end its course. But Cobra Kai, love it. Karate Kid 1, love it. Karate Kid 2, surprisingly enjoyed it. Karate Kid 3, still a stinker. But watch them all if you want to be up to date before you catch your Cobra Kai on Netflix. What do you guys think? Have you watched them recently? Let me know what you think down below. If you want to hit me up on social media or have me look into some other classic films to break down, stay tuned. We got lots more coming. Hit that subscribe button here and on Popcorn Planet to get more notifications. Make sure you hit that bell for all alerts and smash that like button. We got lots more only movie stuff coming here to Movie World. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.